Assalamu alaikum friends, my name is Bilal Khan and today is my 52nd video of DevOps. So in this video I am going to talk about the continuous monitoring tool. Before discussing what is continuous monitoring tool, let's take a look at the monitoring or the continuous monitoring. So monitoring is required after the deployment of an application. Alright, so if you have deployed an application and now you want to monitor it, the continuous monitoring tools will come into picture, and I'm going to show you the tools that will be used in the continuous monitoring. So here you will monitor the bugs, errors or exploitation in an application after deployment. Alright, so now the question arises that why we need continuous monitoring. So we need continuous monitoring to avoid our application downtime and reduce it. And we need to avoid it, the failures that are happening inside the CI/CD pipeline. Alright, and we also need to avoid the application failures, the infrastructure failures, and the analysis of code failures with the help of continuous monitoring. Alright, and after that, let's take a look at the phases of continuous monitoring. So there are six phases that will be used in the continuous monitoring. Alright, so the first one is the define phase, the second one is the establish phase, the third one is the implement phase, the fourth one is the analyzing of data phase, the fifth one is the responding of errors phase, and the sixth one is the review and update phase. So now let's take a look at the define phase first of all. So basically define will develop a monitoring strategy. So it will allow you to develop a monitoring strategy through which you can monitor the application. Alright, so this is the define phase through which first of all you have to define a strategy in which you will monitor an application. So let's say you want to monitor the pipeline, GitHub code, build code, etc. Alright, now the second phase is the establish phase. So in this phase you will basically monitor frequently an application. Alright, so you will frequently monitor an application after some time. So this will be in the establish phase. Now the third phase is the implementation phase. This is the actual work in which the monitoring will happen. Alright, so this will basically monitor an application with the help of this implement phase. The fourth phase is the analyzing of data phase or the analysis phase, in which the data will be analyzed and the report will be given to you in this phase. Alright, and the fifth phase is the responding of data, responding based on errors and failures. So basically, when the data will be analyzed, it will be respond back to you with the errors and failures, and you need to resolve those errors. Alright, and the resolving of errors will come into the sixth phase. So this will be in the review and update phase through which you will resolve these errors and failures. Now let's take a look at the monitoring tools that are used in the market. So the first tool is the Nagios that I'm going to discuss it here. This is the Splunk tool that is also used for monitoring purpose. The Prometheus tool that I have discussed in the previous video also, if you want to check them out. So ELK, Liberato, Amazon CloudWatch, Sensu. So these are some of the monitoring tools, so that you need to keep this in mind. And they will be used according to each of the industry. Alright. So now let's take a look at the Nagios. So we are going to discuss Nagios because it is commonly used nowadays. Alright, so it is very old and it is very new tool also, because there are a lot of documentation available for this tool and it is commonly used nowadays in the market. And Nagios is an open source software for continuous monitoring of systems, networks and infrastructure. Alright, so basically this is an open source software, and that will be used for continuous monitoring of systems, networks and infrastructure. So it runs plugins that are stored on the server. Alright, so basically with the help of these plugins that the Nagios uses, the continuous monitoring process will happen. Alright, with the help of these plugins, and which is connected on a host or another server on your network or the internet. So basically these plugins are stored in the server, and this server will either be on premises, means it will be present in a local machine, or that server will also be present on the remote server, alright, so in the cloud. So in any case of failure, Nagios alerts about the issue so that the technical team can perform recovery process immediately. Alright, so basically it will alert the technical team so if there are some errors found in it. So it will work in the client-server architecture. I have discussed the client-server architecture in my networking video. If you want to check them out, you can also check them. But for simplicity, I will just define that the client-server architecture is basically there will be one server and there will be one client or many clients. All right. So in this way, the server will contain all the resources that will be used for the client. All right. So if the client wants to access those resources, it will first of all give the request to the server, and the server will give the resources to the client. All right. So it's a client-server architecture through which the server and the client will communicate with each other, and if the resources required by the client, it will contact the server to get these resources. After that, it is usually on a network. A Nagios server is running on a host. It means on a local machine, or the plugins are running or the remote host. Means they will be running on the cloud, which you should monitor. All right. So now let's take a look at the history of Nagios. In 1999, Ethan Galster developed it as a part of NetSend distribution. In 2002, Ethan renamed the project to Nagios because of the trademark issues with the name NetSend. In 2009, Nagios released its first commercial version to Nagios XI. In 2012, Nagios was again renamed as Nagios Core. It uses port numbers that is 5666, 5667 and 5668 to monitor its clients. These ports number can be changed also because they are logical. You can change them in the configuration file if you want to. Alright, so now let's take a look at why Nagios. So we use Nagios because it detects all the networks and the server issues. Alright, all types of networks and the server issues. So it helps you to find the root cause of the problems, which allow you to get the permanent solution to the problem. Alright. It reduces the downtime also, and it monitors the entire infrastructure actively. What it means that basically the Nagios server will tell the client, alright, in the active phase. And if you want to monitor the entire infrastructure passively, basically the client will tell the Nagios server, alright. So in first phase, in the active phase, the Nagios server will tell the client, and in the passive phase, the client will tell the Nagios. Server, sorry. Alright, so the client will tell the Nagios server. So it allows you to monitor and troubleshoot the server performance issues, and it automatically fixes the problem. Now let's take a look at the features of Nagios. So it is oldest and it is latest also because it contains a lot of documentation. And good log, it means that it will provide you the reporting in a good format and the database system also. And it is informative and attractive web interface that it provides. And automatically server alerts if the condition changes. Alright, and it helps you to detect network errors or server crashes. You can monitor the entire business process and IT infrastructure with a single time. It means in one time. All the entire infrastructure process will be happening in one time. Alright. So it monitors the network services like HTTP, SMTP, SNMP, FTP, SSH, POP, DNS, LDAP, IPMI, etc. Alright. So now let's take a look at the Nagios architecture. So this is the architecture of the Nagios that I'm going to discuss here. So first of all, Nagios server contains the configuration files in which all the things like IP address, HTTP, SMTP, etc., username and password of all nodes are present, and these nodes will be represented through this configuration data. So basically, this is the server and these are the nodes. Alright, inside this server there is a configuration file that will be present inside this server, and this configuration file will basically contain the IP address or username, password, all the information of these nodes. Alright. So the information of these nodes will be present inside this server or inside this configuration file. And after that, these nodes will be represented through this configuration data. So these nodes will be represented through this configuration file that is present inside this server. Alright, the daemon will collect the data from the configuration file to perform the functionalities. So alright, so basically there is another thing that is present inside the server by the name of daemon that will basically collect the data from the configuration file, and after that what it will do to perform the functionalities of the monitoring. Alright, so once the data is received in the daemon, as you can see, the data will be received in the daemon, what it will do, it will call a plugin that is called nrpe. Alright, so the daemon will call the plugin that is nrpe, that is basically the Nagios remote plugin executor, and that plugin will collect the data from the nodes. Alright, so basically this agent that is present in between the server and the client will basically collect the data from the nodes. Alright, so the data that will present here in the nodes will be collected with the help of this nrpe executor or this agent. Alright, basically if you give the configuration files, if you give the IP address or the username, this username will be detected and they will be given to the nrpe, and this nrpe will detect the nodes according to this configuration file or this IP address or username. Once this node is found based on this configuration file, based on this IP address and username, that node information will be given back to the nrpe. Alright, so I hope you understood. With the help of the IP address or the username, the data will be, the nrpe agent will identify the node. Once the node is identified, the status of the node will be given back to the nrpe so that it will be given to the server. Alright, so now let's take a look. Once the data is received in the daemon, it will call a plugin that has nrpe, and plugin will collect the data from the nodes. Alright, so once the data is given to the NRPE will give will identify the nodes based on the data that is present in the server, and after that store it in its own database. It will store the data in its own database. The NRPE as also the database. Alright, the connection will be through SSH. Alright, so the connection, as you can see, will be happening through the SSH because it will secure the communication. And after that, on the receiving side of the node, there is another plugin that is called the NRPE agent. Build the connection. Alright, so this NRPE agent will be present on each of the nodes that will basically build the connection between the NRPE and the NRPE agent. Receive the request and respond to the status of the nodes. So basically, it will respond the data back, respond to the NRPE also. This NRPE agent will respond back to the NRPE. So this is also the functionality of this agent. Alright, that is present on the node. And after that, the status will go back to the NRPE and it will be given to the daemon. Alright, as you can see that the NRPE status will be given to the daemon, and once it is given to the daemon, once the status is received in the daemon, it will be given to the database for storage. Alright, so the daemon will give the data to the database for storage, and after that, the data will now be available on the web page dashboard. Alright, from the database, the data will be shown to us with the help of web page. Alright, it will be in the dashboard. You can access it via the internet. So main configuration file path of Nagios is this. Alright, so the configuration files will be present in this path in the user, local, Nagios and Nagios folder, and inside this the Nagios.cfg configuration file. Alright, so this is the path of this. And after that, all the monitoring things like service. For example, 5 nodes and 4 things running on them. Alright, so basically let's say if there are 5 nodes, and in 5 nodes there are 4 things, 4 functionalities that are running on each of the nodes, then what it means, that basically it means you are monitoring 5x4, means 20 services you are running in the nodes. Alright, so this is the process. After that, let's take a look at the prerequisites if you want to use it. So HTTPD needs to be installed, PHP, GCC and GD, and that is a compiler to convert the raw data into binaries, and makefile that will build, and the Perl, that's the scripting language. So these are some of the prerequisites that are required for Nagios to run. Alright, so that's it for now. I hope you like this video. So if you liked it, then make sure to subscribe to my channel And if you have any questions, then ask those questions in the comment section below. I'll be happy to answer all of them. So till then, goodbye.